Hi guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Bhavin and I'm a graduate of UBC from the Faculty of Science. I will be pursuing a master's pretty soon, but today's video is all about how to study and how to actually do well in your courses. And yeah, I get these requests all the time and people wanting to book calls with me or talk about how to actually do well. And I was able to do well in my fourth and third year of undergrad as a result of following these techniques. So let's get on with the video. The first step is to make sure you've created a great study environment for yourself. So as for me, I personally just study mostly at home. And at my desk, I'll usually sit down and have everything that I want or will need. So like my cup of tea, my water bottle, maybe a snack. So that makes it so you can limit the amount of time you need to spend getting up, getting stuff, and then getting distracted and all sorts of stuff like that. As well as making sure that you have all the necessary tools. So personally for me, I will just be using mostly my computer and like my iPad. So just making sure everything is charged, everything is plugged in and good to go. So that's step number one. Also, make sure in your environment you've eliminated most of your distractions. So stuff like keeping your phone in a faraway place or in a drawer underneath your desk or anywhere where it's not easily accessible. This will help make sure that you don't get distracted and that you're able to stay focused. The next thing I'm going to talk about is by far the most important method of studying, and that is using active learning techniques. So what that means is basically using techniques that get you to retrieve information from your brain and to basically test yourself. And this is the secret into like how you're supposed to study and to actually do well. Because most of the time when you're studying, most students will use what is known as passive learning. So that would include things like just rereading your notes, highlighting, taking notes on a blank piece of paper or on the iPad. Both are extremely ineffective at actually getting you to retain information and to truly learn it. So what are some active learning methods that I use all the time? So the first would be flashcards. So the way I do this is by using Quizlet and Anki. And what those can basically do is get you to test yourself on the information on that flashcard. So this allows you to force yourself to retrieve that information, and as a result, the neural pathways in your brain that have that information and those synapses become stronger, and you're able to remember it. And what you can do is even use, and when you're using the practice questions, what you're going to want to do is make sure you try every question on your own first, and then look at the answer. And every question that you just kind of guessed on or whatever, star it and review that as well. But make sure that you're actually using those questions and you're not just looking at the answer and seeing like, oh yeah, I could totally do this on the test. I promise you that won't go well. But if instead you kind of think about, okay, how else could they ask this question? Or what if I changed this variable? Or what if the question was this instead? It will go a long way in making sure you do much better. So that's another tip you can use. And the next one would be to use what is known as the Feynman Technique. And you can use this with your friends who are studying in the same class or whatever. So this is basically what you're going to want to do is form a small study group with a couple of people. So either meet at the library or on Zoom or like digitally or whatever, and teach each other the lectures or the content for that week, and basically explain the topics as if you're like 5 years old and very simple. The next thing you're going to want to do is figure out what works well for you in terms of your study style. Are you a visual learner? Are you a like listening or audio focused learner where you have to listen to your lectures or something auditory for the information to resonate with you? Or do you need to basically do kinesthetics? So if you're learning, for example, anatomy, you'd want to kind of like pinpoint on your body. What works well for you is what you're going to need to figure out. And you can do this just by trying things and testing yourself and figuring out if it was like positive, if you were able to remember, if you were able to answer questions if asked otherwise. But personally for me, I found the best sequence of events would be to basically listen to the lecture, but even prior to that, preview it. So either look through the slides, the learning objectives, anything in the textbook, and then go to the lecture, and then make sure you're understanding what is being said and taking notes on the iPad. The next thing you're going to want to focus on is actually effectively managing your time and making sure you're using like a calendar or anything that you can basically write down the things that you need to do and when they are needed to be done by. And if you do this, basically plan out everything you need to do. So all your homework, when any big assignments are due, any like activities you have, like let's say soccer practice or tutoring or whatever you need to do, make sure you have it in there and make sure you're planning exactly what you need to do and when. You can even use like a to-do list for the day before you start studying or doing whatever you need to do for that day. Write down everything you need to do as well as how long it will take for it to get done. And when you are working, what I recommend doing is the Pomodoro technique. So this is basically 25 minutes of work and a 5-minute break, or 50 minutes of work and a 10-minute break. And you can do like a couple of hours of that and then go take a longer break where you could go do your laundry or cook some meals or go to the gym or do whatever to kind of recharge and refresh. And honestly, when I was studying for like 10 hours a day in university in my upper years, this is exactly what I would do. I would just do 25 minutes, 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 5 minutes. And it makes it so you don't get tired and can continuously study for a long time. And lastly, make sure you're taking care of yourself. You're not going to be able to do well in school if you're constantly tired or not eating well or just having a diet that's mostly fast foods and processed foods. It just makes it so much more difficult. Make sure you're trying to get like 8 hours of sleep every night. You're eating well, you're trying to take care of yourself by going to the gym or doing at least one physical activity per day, even if it's just a small walk or just stuff like that. And that will go a long way. So I hope that video was helpful. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more. And yeah, that's all for now.